Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the Sunken Ship One Tile Industries DLC Challenge. I'm your builder, New Build Cities, NBC for short, and in part 1 we started the city and got the Forestry Industry to level 4. We've met the worker requirement, so all we need is time to produce the required amount of stuff in order to get that industry to 5. In part 2, we're going to build up and level the farming to 5 here in this corner of the map, start the oil and ore industry, as well as level up a passenger airport from the airport's DLC so we can unlock the cargo terminal. Like the forestry industry, I'm going to start the other pieces all the same by placing down 1 or 2 or 3 small extractor assets and 1 small storage set to balance. I'll then let that industry run for a little bit until the storage gets to about 50%. Then I'll place small processor buildings in roughly a 1-to-1 ratio with the small extractors, as well as place small warehouses set to balance for each of the processed material. And while we have some time to kill, maybe we should go over the different modes for storage units and warehouses and talk about when I think they might be useful. But first, let's define a storage unit and a warehouse. So a storage unit is particular to each piece of the DLC. That'd be like a silo or a barn, and it holds raw material. A warehouse is not particular to that piece of the DLC, and those would be the items that store your processed material as well as just generic goods, all kinds of stuff. Storage units can both import and export. Warehouses cannot import processed materials like your plastics, your petroleums, plain timber, things like that. So your first mode of operation is empty. A storage unit or warehouse set to empty will try to maintain 0 to 20% and can be viewed as a priority to export, and is good if you want a storage unit or warehouse to primarily export the item. I tend to set a few unique factory products to export, but I rarely use this mode because a storage unit or warehouse set to balance can also export. And that leads us to balanced, which is the next mode of operation for these things. That will try to maintain 40 to 60%. The storage unit will import, remember warehouses don't import processed material, up to 40%. It'll hang out and answer local demand as needed and start exporting above 60%. The higher above 60%, the more it switches to export mode. It doesn't use trucks to import, so you can serve locally even below 40%, but it will use trucks to export and can send all your trucks out to export if it gets above 80%. I use this one the most and in nearly every situation. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our city. I think it looks really good for just throwing it together for the challenge. Let's just take a spot check on the city to see how it's doing. Our electricity is doing well. We got plenty of water and sewer. Actually lowered the budget down just a little bit. Maybe save a little bit of money. That looks good. Guess it's the first try. Always love when that happens. Our jails are bursting at the seams almost, but we still have 3 more slots. That's a little perplexing. Maybe we'll have to throw out another police station. Our schools are doing okay. Our elementary schools look like they're handling the capacity. Our high school's a little overcrowded, but that's okay. Not too worried about it, and we haven't put down a university yet. Our unemployment is 12%, which is good. I'm shooting for anything really above 8% at this point, just because I'm trying to force folks to go work at the industry. Our traffic's 95, that's fine. We're moving some people around on the buses, but not a lot. Our city's not that big, it's only 6,000 citizens, so I'm not expecting these guys to be moving a whole bunch of stuff. And I just randomly throw them down to provide a service and level up buildings. So I'm not expecting a whole lot out of them. And it looks like we can upgrade this one to a bigger bus. Well, let's go upgrade bus line number 2 to something else. Oh, the airport double decker, let's do that. That was cool. And looks like our city's sitting at, we'll say, almost $250,000. And of course, our income is fluctuating as the industries export stuff, sell stuff in the commercial zones and all that stuff. So I think we're doing probably, we'll say, averaging 10 to 15,000 a week still. And the silo looks like it's at 50%. So let's go ahead and place some processing type buildings down. And we can go ahead and talk about storage units and warehouse modes again. The last mode is fill, and the storage unit or warehouse will try and maintain 80 to 100% and can be viewed as a priority to import and is great if you don't have the raw resource. Once again, remember, warehouses can't import processed material. And fill can be a bit tricky, at least on console, probably vanilla PC. In my experience, if all the storage / warehouses of that type, so if you're trying to import a bunch of crops or whatever, are set to fill, then they will serve locally. But if you have some set to different modes, so if you had a bunch of plastic warehouses, some were filled, some were empty, some were balanced, I find that the ones set to fill don't do anything. They just hold on to the material. I guess maybe if the other warehouses completely ran out, maybe it would get kicked into action. But I tend to see that it doesn't answer the phone call if there's other opportunities for the phone call to be answered by other buildings. Those storage and warehouses set to fill hoard the material. The awesome thing about fill is it's the mode I use when using storage and warehouses as props in other non-industries DLC builds, like fuel tanks at the airport or storage at the power plant, because once they fill up, they just sit there and don't send out any trucks, which prevents any impact to your traffic. Let's go ahead and expand the town just a little bit. Our unemployment was sitting around 12%, so we have a little bit of room to add some more folks in. Let's go ahead and check on our farming industry. Our silo is a little bit full, so we could put down a few more processor buildings. Hey, level 3. Nice, nice. We get the bakery. Great. And we get to produce flour. Our unemployment jumped up to 19. It's a bit high, but that's okay. We can put down some more processing buildings. That'll provide jobs for our residents. And that should be pretty good. We put down 2 flour mills, 1 warehouse for the flour, and 1 more small crop. And now we're still like at that 1-to-1 ratio. So that should serve us pretty well. Let's go ahead and put the bakery down. Let's go ahead and crank that bad boy up. Do 125. I let it run for a little bit just to see how we were doing. And we're starting to fill up the small warehouse for the flour just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and crank this thing up to 150. Let it run. Hooray! Our forestry industry got to level 5. That's great. So now we're done with the forestry industry. So now that we removed the small plantations, those folks that were working there, even though they weren't running, can go work in our farming area and as well as our oil area. So we're just go ahead and we'll go ahead and start the oil industry, as well as we can start expanding again. Now that we have the furniture factory and bakery running at 150%, our weekly income seems to be hovering around, we'll say, $15,000 to $25,000 a week, which is good. We're starting to make some decent money, and we're sitting around $1.2 million. So we have the finances to kind of do what we want. And for our oil industry, I'm just going to dig like a little pit, and that's where our pumps are going to sit. All right, our farming has leveled up. Now, I'm not going to really use any of the other assets like the milk parlor, cattle shed, or slaughterhouse. I'm just going to stick with the small plantations. Now our unemployment's down to 14%, so some of those folks went and worked in our farming area. So let's go ahead and dezone the rest of our industry. We have the bakery producing unique factory products, which counts as goods that can be sold in our commercial zones. So we really don't need our generic industry anymore. And this question often comes up on the forums, especially on Reddit. And that question is, can you get rid of your generic industry if you have the industry's DLC? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The industry's DLC is relatively irrelevant in terms of that question, to be honest with you, because you can build a city that's only commercial, office, and residence. I've done it twice, and it's not that hard to do, really, if you just set your city up to be a large importer of material. So now what I want to do is place a bunch of barracks down in our farming area to get the number of available working locations up. So we're at 450 now, 387 work here. If we can boost that number up, we'll attract more people. Because the game, in general, will try to fill in 75% of the available jobs. So now where our available work spots are 930, and we already have 553 people. Hey, Big Town! One of my favorite milestones. We just hit. That's great. We unlocked the high density stuff, which is the most important out of this milestone, probably. So this milestone is a good time to start your campus. Usually you have the trade school, I think, available at this point. So you could, if you don't want to use the trade school, put down a vanilla campus. And then, once you hit the numbers to unlock, say, the university, if that's the one you want to place, or the other one's the liberal arts, you can put that down, blow up your vanilla campus, your base game campus, and then we can go to your DLC campus. Like I said, we got high density, res, commercial, and office available to us. We're not going to use any office because we want people to work in the industry. Let's go ahead and dezone a bunch of stuff. Our farming has leveled up again. That's good. I think that means it's level 4. So we're knocking out the farming pretty quickly. Put the university down. We might as well educate our folks and make them happy, and as well as boost land value. Once again, we have a finite amount of real estate, so the higher level the buildings become, the more they can house, which of course will boost our population and allow us to fill out for industries with the required workers. Let's take a look at our farming, and we're getting a little hot on the warehouses. I can see we're at like 18, 19 to 21, and they're getting kind of full, getting above 60, 70%. So when I see this, it triggers in my mind just to keep an eye on the DLC to see if it stabilizes or if we get ourselves into a runaway scenario where we start filling up these warehouses. They use all 21 trucks and we can no longer provide local service. So I'm just going to kind of monitor it in the background and just see how it goes. But if you are running an industry's DLC and you come across something like that, that's my recommendation to you, just to keep an eye on it. If, of course, you start seeing it run away, place down more warehouses, that'll work. I'm going to throw down a couple crops, a few more silos, and it's expanding our workers. And now you can see we have 1,010 worker seats and 898 folks working there. So that's good. So we've met the worker requirement. Now it's just a matter of time. We're at 57,000 of 135 of stuff we need to make, and we are producing that extra stuff, so we should be able to get that pretty quickly. Let's go ahead and start our oil industry. And just like the other ones, I'm going to go ahead and throw down a handful of the extractor type buildings, and we'll use I think it's like the small oil storage tank, and that'll soak up some of the oil. And once that gets to 50, we'll place down the petroleum processing buildings. And we unlock the solar updraft plant, so we really don't need all the wind turbines anymore. We're making a good amount of money. I'm not that worried about energy efficiency, but I do want the real estate back, and I'm going to need room to go ahead and place the ore industry as well as an airport, and it's going to go about in this area. So let's go ahead and get rid of all these wind turbines. That one solar updraft plant will probably be enough to supply the whole city. I want to say we also have the geothermal plant somewhere hiding within the commercial area, but between the two of those we should be fine with power. I mean, the city's not going to get that much bigger. We're at what, 9,300 citizens? We just threw down some high density, so that'll level up and bring in some more folks in. Now our oil industry is ready to go ahead and start making some processed material. And once again, we're kind of keeping that 1-to-1 ratio. We have 3 small oil drills down. So now we have 3 small petroleum plants down. This oil sludge paralysis plant, or however you say that. And I'm just doing the old staggering thing. I sped through this. I have a video somewhere on my channel. I think it's in the noob tips of the day. If you're interested on what is staggering, why I keep saying it, and how to do it, it goes through it in pretty good detail. So what I want to do next is pave the way to place the cargo airport from the airport's DLC. Unfortunately, and an aggravation that I have with the DLC, among other things, is the fact that you first need to place a passenger airport, level that up to level 3 in order to unlock the cargo stand to start a cargo airport. I feel like that's goofy. I don't know why they did that, other than poor programming and lazy thinking of how this DLC works, to be honest with you. To me, in my mind, it's like saying in order to start your farming industry, you have to level up your ore industry to level 5. It's like they're not necessarily related. I don't understand why they didn't separate the two. Give the passenger and cargo terminals their own leveling mechanism. You know, the cargo terminal could have been based on the number of units imported or exported, whereas, you know, the passengers, number of passengers and attractiveness, something like that. But no, that's not how it works. So what we're going to have to do first is place, like I said, the passenger airport, level that up to level 3, destroy that, then place a cargo airport. And the reason I'm using the airports DLC is we have a very small space, right? So plan is to build one runway, 1 or 2 cargo stands, have them set only to export, allow our industry to use that to get rid of goods so the trucks aren't driving all over God's creation trying to export. They can go right to the airport, and the planes can go fly somewhere and don't come back. They can just stay there. I don't care what they do. Once they're there, they can have our planes. They can drop off their goods, and we can just do that. We don't have a huge amount of space. So what you saw with near the ore industry is I placed the terminal just to unlock the terminal, but near the power plant, I'm going to go ahead and actually build an airport. And I connect that with the bus, and then that way people can take the bus to the airport. You can't drive to the airport because the terminal ain't connected to anything, but they can take the bus to the airport, and they can kind of come and go as they please that way. Just want to make sure the taxiway is facing the right way. No one's really using our airport yet, so that's a little perplexing, but let's go ahead and slam down some of the attractive items to boost our attractiveness so we can level this thing up. I'm going to do a little trick with the control tower. Our attractiveness is good, but we haven't gotten any planes to come in. So that's a little weird. That's why our bus isn't connected to the actual terminal. So people can't move from the buses to the planes, really. So let's go ahead and fix that. That looks a lot better. There we go. Now it's like inside. Now people can walk there. Hopefully that's actually connected. And in the background, I set up a bunch of bus routes. I just didn't show it just because there was a bunch of me just routing stuff everywhere. But now we're talking. Now we got some people coming in. I see some planes coming in. Heck yeah, they're full. I got 50 people on it. So that's really nice. I'm happy. The airport's actually running. So now we'll just have to see what happens at level 2. We'll probably have to put down a little bit more attractiveness. But it's really just a matter of time. And of course, while that's running, we can do other stuff. So what I did was I let it run for a little bit. I placed down 2 more unique factories. You can see them in the oil industry area. And I started expanding our oil just a little bit. Our farming is level 5. So that's kicking butt. So I got rid of a lot of the barracks, and we don't need the stuff that I turned off because we don't need the people anymore. Those people can go work in our ore and oil industry. Our airport is doing well. We're not quite halfway to the passenger count to level 3, and we need another, we'll say 440, is that right? Yeah, another 440 attractiveness. So we'll go ahead and throw down more attractiveness. I like the fact that we have 82% used seats, which is cool. And a lot of people are leaving our city. It looks like 61% are outgoing, 40% are incoming. So most of our citizens are going other places, which is fine. And of course, we're not making any money yet because I think at level 3, we get the airline headquarters and then we can place that and make money. But it doesn't matter either way because we're going to end up destroying the passenger airport for the cargo airport anyway and make money that way. There we go. Now our attractiveness is up. We're at 2,500, so we're halfway there. That should go pretty quick. Our oil industry is looking good. That's at 15, using a decent amount of trucks. These guys look good. We could use a little bit more plastic. So let's throw down another plastic producer. I said our oil is at 50, barely using the trucks. Let's see what we got here. We're almost at level 4 in terms of the number of workers. So that's good. We're at 474 of 550. And we're at 27,000 of 45,000. So it shouldn't be that long until we hit level 4. Let's take a look at the city. Healthcare looks good. Schools look good except for high school. But I did dump out all those light density residential for the high density. So there's a block of people kind of moving through the education system that'll work its way out. Unemployment is 19%, which is good. We're probably going to expand on the oil industry and start the ore industry. So we'll be able to provide those folks with jobs using that. Now let's go ahead and set up the ore industry. Once again, just offsetting those guys so they're not all producing at the same time. Let's go ahead and make some metal. This will allow us to place down the lemonade factory. Lemonade factory uses crops and metal to make lemonade. How's our oil industry doing? It's good. Almost 50%. Really not using much trucks. A little bit more than half the trucks on the petroleum. Not using that many trucks on the plastic. Our forestry looks like it's doing pretty good still. It's like in a pretty nice steady state. Both storage units have trucks available to use locally. And our stand storage is halfway full, so that's good. Let's go ahead and place another grinding mill. That gives us a 1-to-1 ratio with our small mine. And I'm doing the staggering thing again. Hooray, our airport has gotten to level 3. So we can now get rid of the passenger airport and place our cargo airport terminal. And I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We got a lot accomplished. Farming, forestry is complete. Oil, I want to say, is 3. And ores, maybe 1 or 2. And part 3 should be the final part of this series. We'll get our cargo airport going and finish leveling up ore and oil. I appreciate you watching. Have a great day. And as always, happy building.